Xin được gửi lời chào tới tất cả quý vị khán giả đang ngồi trước màn hình và theo dõi sự kiện tọa đàm trực tuyến phối hợp giữa tập đoàn Cen Group và Hiệp hội Doanh nghiệp Hồng Kông Việt Nam HKBAV. Thưa quý vị, sự kiện ngày hôm nay có chủ đề chia sẻ từ chuyên gia về mua nhà tại Việt Nam cho người nước ngoài, được hứa hẹn sẽ mang tới rất nhiều những thông tin thú vị và hấp dẫn. Quý vị đừng rời mắt khỏi màn hình và đừng bỏ lỡ bất cứ một giây phút quan trọng nào của sự kiện ngày hôm nay. Thưa quý vị, Hiệp hội Doanh nghiệp Hồng Kông tại Việt Nam HKBAV là hiệp hội tự nguyện phi lợi nhuận, phi chính phủ, phi chính trị của doanh nghiệp Hồng Kông tại Việt Nam, được thành lập tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh vào năm 1999 và thành lập tại Hà Nội vào năm 2012. HKBAV có vai trò rất lớn trong việc tạo điều kiện và tăng cường đầu tư hai chiều, kinh doanh và thương mại giữa Việt Nam và Hồng Kông. Còn đối với Cen Group, đơn vị kinh doanh bất động sản hàng đầu tại Việt Nam, với kinh nghiệm lâu năm trong lĩnh vực phân phối bất động sản, giỏ hàng phong phú cả ở trong và ngoài nước. Và sự kiện ngày hôm nay sẽ chia sẻ về việc mua nhà tại Việt Nam cho người nước ngoài. Ngoài ra thì sự kiện cũng sẽ tập trung vào tình hình hoạt động mua bán bất động sản cho người nước ngoài, cơ hội, rủi ro, tiềm năng cho các nhà đầu tư và phân khúc nào nên đầu tư. Rất nhiều những thông tin hấp dẫn và hữu ích đối với quý vị sẽ được chúng tôi hé mở trong suốt thời lượng 60 phút diễn ra sự kiện trực tuyến ngày hôm nay. Nhưng trước tiên, Hoàng Huyên xin được giới thiệu những nhân vật vô cùng đặc biệt và đóng vai trò quan trọng trong sự kiện này. Đó chính là Shark Phạm Thanh Hưng, Phó Chủ tịch Hội đồng Quản trị Tập đoàn Cen Group và Mr. Alan Hoàng, Giám đốc Phát triển Dự án Quốc tế. Quý vị đã sẵn sàng chưa ạ? Chúng tôi đã sẵn sàng và ngay bây giờ chúng ta sẽ cùng kết nối với sự kiện ngày hôm nay.
Cen Group, established in 2002 with many subsidiaries and experienced and knowledgeable in the market. Cen Group offers professional services in many fields. Cen Land joint-stock company, Cen Land, specializing in sales and marketing in real estate projects. Cen Real Estate Investment and Development joint-stock company, Cen Invest, real estate developers and co-developers. Century Valuation Joint-stock Company, Cen Value provides asset valuation services. Century Travel and Golf Service Joint-stock Company, Cen Golf offers travel and golf services in Vietnam. Founder Nguyễn Trung Vũ is one of the top 20 influential entrepreneurs in the property market of Vietnam and top 10 best entrepreneurs. Red Star Award in 2017. Vice Chairman of Cen Group, Phạm Thanh Hưng is among the leading real estate specialists in Vietnam. He is one of 4 powerful sharks in Shark Tank Vietnam. In about 20 years of development, Cen Group has affirmed its position and role as a professional real estate agency and secondary investor in Vietnam's real estate market. Tens of thousands of real estate products have been successfully rolled out through Cen Group. In the coming time, we still consider real estate brokerage and marketing as the core business. Besides, thanks to the strength of real estate brokerage and marketing, we intend to expand our business into real estate investment and development. Cen Group also offers a full range of services for industrial and logistic real estate and commercial real estate products, especially service apartments. Cen Group has been contributing to transparency and internationalization of real estate market in Vietnam, thereby building a better and happier life.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to our regional seminar series sponsored by Cen Group on Expert Guide for Foreigners on Buying Apartments in Vietnam, organized and hosted by Hong Kong Business Association Vietnam and supported by Hong Kong Trade Development Council. This is our largest webinar to date with strong support from the region with over 330 registrations. My name is Winnie Lam. I am the General Secretary of the Hong Kong Business Association and the COO of Colliers International in Vietnam here. I'll take you through the program today. I would like to start by thanking our sponsor, Cen Group, and their representative speakers, Mr. Phạm Thanh Hưng, Vice Chairman of Cen Group, and Mr. Alan Hoàng, International Project Manager of Cen Land. Joining them are guest speakers today, Ms. Đào Win, Managing Partner of DN Legal, and Mr. Harminder Mahal, Country Head of Retail Banking, Standard Chartered Bank. We are also very glad to have Mr. Caleb Lau, General Manager of Hong Kong Land, to help moderate the panel discussion later. It is my honor to be hosting you. Thank you for participating. We have a total of 10 national and regional organizations co-hosting our event today. And it is evidence that Vietnam is hot on their radar for investment. From the region, we have Hong Kong Trade Development Council, Hong Kong Malaysia Business Association, Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Chinese General Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, and the Y Elite Association in Hong Kong. And in Vietnam here, welcome AustCham, the Council of Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce of Vietnam, Indian Chamber of Commerce, Malaysia Business Chambers, and Singapore Business Group. Without further delay, today's events have 3 short presentations and a panel discussion to follow, where you can raise questions throughout the webinar. Please use the Q&A function on your toolbar. We will not be receiving any live questions to ensure the smooth transition of the event. Your microphones has been muted, as well as your camera has been disabled for good housekeeping. If you encounter any technical issue, our first suggestions will be to log out and log in again. In some places where you have poor internet connections, you may see if it is an alternative to view it on your mobile phone. So, we're going to start today's event with Ms. Đào Win, who is having a good evening in Las Vegas, actually. She will kick off the presentation today, helping us with the in and outs of buying residential properties in Vietnam as a foreigner. Đào is the managing partner of her own firm, DN Legal, and she advises investors on all aspects of doing business in Vietnam. It's very fitting for us to have Đào here to do the presentations, as she was on the original team helping the government to write their first sets of real estate laws. So, good evening, Đào, and hope that you are having a glass of champagne to join you there. I'm now handing it over to you to start the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Winnie. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. Hold on, I'm trying to find my presentation. Sorry, my presentation's not coming up for some reason.
It's okay, Đào. So you're enjoying Las Vegas. Can you wait to come back?
I'm upset because I'm losing my 10 minutes as we speak. Maybe, oh yeah, here we go. Thank you.
Great. Can you put it on the projection mode so that we can see it clearly? Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Winnie. They say that usually they save the best for last, you know, so I'm just the appetizer. I'm really looking forward to the presentations of the other presenters. But hopefully in the next 10 minutes, I can share with you some of the key points on buying property in Vietnam if you're a foreigner. My team and I prepared a pretty detailed presentation, which will be available after the webinar. So I think you can, you know, I'll leave out a lot of the details because they'll be in the presentation. So what will we cover? Quite a lot. Who, what, when, where, why, you know, basically, of buying property in Vietnam. To start, basically there are 4 classes of quote-unquote foreigners that can buy property in Vietnam. The first one is a foreign individual. The second is foreign organization. And the only thing I'll highlight about that is that it must be in licensed in the non-real estate business. So if you're a foreign company in the real estate business, you cannot buy residential property. Foreign spouse of a Vietnamese individual, it can also buy property. And of course, overseas Vietnamese, which include Vietnamese citizen living overseas, as well as those who don't have Vietnamese citizenship but have Vietnamese roots. So those are the 4 classes of people that can buy property in Vietnam. And what are the conditions if you're a foreigner? Well, if you look on the left, it's actually pretty easy. As a foreigner, you just need, the right to enter Vietnam and a stamp on your passport. So hard to believe, but yes, it's really, really easy to buy property as a foreigner. If you're a foreign company, you have to have a license to do business in Vietnam. So if you're an offshore company without any business in Vietnam, you also cannot buy property in Vietnam. Spouses of Vietnamese citizens, same condition as a foreign individual. And overseas Vietnamese, you need a document, generally from the Department of Justice, certifying that you are an overseas Vietnamese, and again, a stamp on your passport. So surprisingly, if you're a foreigner, you have like the easiest conditions to buy property in Vietnam. And how to purchase? Well, basically, a foreigner and a foreign company, you can buy only from a project developer. So you can't buy from other Vietnamese. And you can also buy from another foreigner who's bought property in Vietnam. So generally, it's concentrated to a property development project where foreigners can buy. So you can't just like go and buy like a property from an individual, a Vietnamese individual. You can also receive the property by inheritance or donation if you're lucky from a family member. The other point to note also is, as a foreign organization, you can only buy a residential property, as many as you want, but only for your staff use. So you can't really use it to do, real estate business. Spouses of Vietnamese individuals, same rights, except the only difference is that you hold it on a freehold basis, long-term basis, whereas foreigners and foreign companies can only own property for 50 years. Overseas Vietnamese have a bit more special rights in that, in addition to what the rights of foreigners, they can also buy land and they can also buy from Vietnamese individuals. So in that sense, there are some differences in your right, from whom you can buy and your rights. And the types of property that you can buy, basically for foreigners, the only thing to note is that you can only buy in the properties from projects where the government has sort of designated the projects as, not within the national defense or national security area. So if a project is in that area, you can't buy property, even if it's from a developer of a development project. And so far, our understanding is that in Hanoi, these areas have been designated, but in Ho Chi Minh, this has not yet happened. So that's the only thing to note. And overseas Vietnamese really have no concern. You can buy anywhere and any kind of property. How many real estate property can you buy? There's no limit. There's no limit. You can buy as many as you want, but the developers themselves actually have quotas. So in one apartment building, they can only sell 30% of the total number of apartments to foreigners. And in one landed housing project, they can only sell 10% of the total number of landed houses to foreigners. Surprisingly here, for spouses of Vietnamese citizen and overseas Vietnamese, there's no limitation. You're not really subject to the quota. Ownership, as I mentioned, foreign individuals and companies, you only have the right to, foreign individuals, you only have the right to own it for 50 years. There's a right to extend for another term. And for foreign company, you're limited to the period of your investment certificate. So the certificate that gives you the right to establish the business in Vietnam, and you can also extend for another period, provided that the investment certificate is also equally extended. And in this regard, if you're married to a Vietnamese or if you're an overseas Vietnamese, you actually are not subject to the 50-year limit. You can own it for what we call freehold, but the legal term is actually long-term use. So there's another difference in terms of ownership. Extension, as I mentioned, you can extend for another additional period of 50 years. In terms of right to mortgages, this is important because, as a foreigner, you want to know, well, can I borrow from a bank to finance my apartment? Well, legally, yes, but the problem is that the law says that it's sort of like the loan cannot exceed the period that you're allowed to stay in Vietnam. So, there's a disconnect between, what the bank can provide. Generally, like the tenor could be from 10 to 20 years. But, right now, even like people who are in Vietnam, doing business, they don't have the right to be in Vietnam for more than 5 years. So the visa laws have just changed. So certain individuals can actually be in Vietnam for 10 years or more, but there is indeed a disconnect in terms of, the right to borrow versus the term that you can be in Vietnam for. Spouses and overseas Vietnamese, actually no restriction. You can borrow from banks in Vietnam to finance the property. We just highlight what the one kind of like who can buy. There is one restriction in terms of Chinese passports. So if you're a Chinese citizen and you have like a passport, which we call the 9-dash line, which shows like the lines forming the U shape in the South China Sea, you can't really buy residential property in Vietnam. It's kind of like a political issue. And the reason why you can't buy is because the immigration authority will not affix the stamp, when you enter Vietnam. So that's the kind of the only restrictions in terms of for foreigners is people with Chinese citizenship, with this kind of passport. The process for buying residential property is actually, pretty straightforward. You have to determine whether or not you're in the quota, and the developer will tell you because they actually have the duty to inform the Department of Construction. And usually it's the developer who decide whether or not you satisfy the condition as a foreigner to buy. And as I mentioned, if you have a stamp on your passport, basically you can buy property in Vietnam. Generally, you sign a deposit contract, and then after that you sign the SPA, and the seller then inform the Department of Construction, and you pay per installment depending on the construction schedule. And finally, when the developer gets the land use rights certificate or the title paper, you make the final payment, generally the remaining 5% of the sale price. So the steps are, it's pretty standard. Can you sell your residential property? Yes, indeed you can. And you can even sell the property before the title paper is issued to you. And this is because in practice, it sometimes takes a long time to receive the title paper, but the government says that you can transfer, and as long as the developer sort of certify it. So this is also pretty common practice. And after the certificate is, after you receive the title, you can also transfer. And the key thing to note here is you can actually, although as a foreigner, your term of use may be limited to 50 years plus another extension, you can actually sell to a Vietnamese and they will then have freehold. Or you can sell to another foreigner and they will have the right to use the property for the remaining term of your ownership. In terms of payment, it's also pretty, there are some regulations on the total amount that could be collected. Like, for example, for a project developed by a local developer, the local developer can only collect, up to a maximum of 70% of the total value of the property. If it's a foreign developer, the foreign developer can only collect more than not more than 50%. And finally, the developer cannot collect more than 95% of the sale price if the land use right certificate or the title paper is not yet available. On payment, the payment is in Vietnamese dong. So what you need to do is open a bank account at a bank in Vietnam. You deposit your US dollars into that bank account, and then it's converted into VND to make the payment. And opening an account in Vietnam to make payment is also very useful because it's sort of evidence that you brought the money in Vietnam. So later on, when you sell, you can actually remit the money in Vietnam on the basis that, foreign exchange did come into Vietnam for the purchase of the property. So we highly recommend that you open a bank account in Vietnam to make all the payments, including the deposit. On tax, it's all set out here. Basically, there's a VAT of 10% on purchase price, 10% VAT on rental if you're the owner, of your foreign owner and you want to rent it out. In terms of the owner as being a company, if you're a foreign individual renting it out, you have to charge 5% VAT. Stamp duty is 0.5% of the purchase price. PIT is also payable, 2% on the sale price for individuals, and 5% on rental if you're buying it and you're renting it out. And for companies owning residential real estate, there is 20% corporate income tax on the gain when you sell, or 20% on the net income rental. I mean, it's all in our presentation, so I won't go into further detail. And then finally, some statistics. According to the Ministry of Construction, there are nearly 800 foreigners owning residential properties. I mean, I kind of don't believe that number. It seems, my impression is like it's a lot more than 800. And Ho Chi Minh is where people sort of concentrate their ownership. It seemed like 70% of foreigners own property in Ho Chi Minh. And foreign buyers like to own property in sort of like the central area of Ho Chi Minh, meaning District 1, District 3, or District 2. And residential properties, the high-end one, tend to range between 5,500 to 6,500 per square meter, which seems quite high to me, but apparently it's still lower than in the neighboring countries in Southeast Asia. So here's a quick summary. On that note, I think my presentation ends, and over to you, Winnie.
Thank you, Dao. I'm very proud of you to be breezing through your presentation. A lot of the participants has been asking, and the presentations will be available to share after the event. I love to hear the fact that you said it is easiest for foreigners to do it. I may just tempted to check it out.
It's easier than for me. It's easier for you than for me.
Okay. I won't dare cutting you off, even though you're overrunning, because there's important information there. Coming up next, it will be Mr. Alan Huang of Cen Group, who will share with us his thoughts on whether Vietnam real estate presents a good investment opportunity in COVID-19. And if yes, which type and where should we consider investing? Alan is a real estate expert and has been very successful in selling residential and tourism properties to local and international markets such as Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, and China, with 100% sold out rate for foreigner quotas. So Alan, if you are ready, I'm handing it over to you. I'm sure our participants can't wait any longer. Cannot hear you, Alan. You're going to turn on your microphone. All right, you're on.
You can hear?
Yes, yes, we
Okay.
can hear you now.
So good morning, everyone. So let me start my stopwatch first because I only have like 10 minutes, right? Okay. I'm sharing the screen. Slide.
Please put it on projection mode, Alan. That will help us read it clearly.
Oops. Can you see the screen?
It's still not in projection mode.
Chưa về share.
It should be on the bottom right of your screen to enable it. All right, it's coming on. Still not projection mode. If you have a technical guy on your side, it probably can help. You can click slideshow on the top. Slideshow. Maybe we can start while someone may be able to help you in a little bit.
Okay, maybe we can start and someone will help me with the slideshow
Okay,
later.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we are looking for good investment opportunity right now. So I think the first question, since you joining this event, I think all of you know the answer is definitely a yes. So I will take a quick summary on the first for the first question. So if you're looking at investment opportunities, there's so many factors to consider. So the first factors that I want to take a look is the economic indicator. And you can see that comparing for some other Asia countries, you can see that Vietnam in Q1 have a very good positive GDP growth rate, interest rate, and employment rate compared to other countries. The second factor that might affect our economy is also the political scheme and the political affect issues in the world affect us. So in the late 2019, you can see that we have US and China trade war. And recently, China also have raised tax tariff to Australia. And the most recent conflict is between India and China border. As you know, that India is one of the top population countries in the world with 1.3 billion people. And now you're seeing that many of the India start to destroying made in China product. This is similar to a story in Korea, as you don't see so many Japan car, or when you go to Japan, you don't see so many Korean car. And for the next might affect the main factors that might affect our economy is the FDI. So for the FDI, the main thing that I want to point out here is that mainly the FDI coming from South Korea and now Hong Kong and Singapore, and 64% is for manufacturing and processing industry. In this year, from January to May, this manufacturing and processing sector have increased to 77%. In fact, there's a lot of factories have moved to Vietnam. You can see that world's largest Samsung mobile factory is in Vietnam. Japan used to be top 3 FDI in Vietnam, and now in 2019 got replaced by Hong Kong investor. Korea is our our long-term investor. They have been here for a very long time. So if you visit Hanoi, you can see these two landmarks is a two tallest building built by Korea. Recently, you can also see that Amazon and Apple coming to Vietnam, and Foxconn expanding their factory. Komatsu and other Japanese also relocated their factory from China to Vietnam. Another factor that affects us is no move. I think the slide no move again. Okay, so another factor is that the tourism. If you check on last year before the pandemic, you can see that Korea fly to Vietnam like 40 flights per day. Singapore and Hong Kong also have many flights to Vietnam. This is like a domestic flights, and most traffic come from weekend as they spend time here to play golf. Last year, we are rated as #1 golf destination in the world. So besides that, we have a lot of attractions too. Sorry guys. So for the next factor is the rental yield that attract investor gonna look at. So comparing with some other Asian countries, you can see that Vietnam got 4 to 7% rental yield per year, which is very attractive. So just to sum up, yes, Vietnam real estate is a great investment opportunity as a new hub for manufacturing world. And we have a low cost for investment. 60% of our population is in working age, and we're planning to have 55 free trade agreement with 55 countries in 2020. So, so from the first picture, when you see the big picture from the macroeconomic, you can see clearly that one of the type of a property might be very interesting, very hot, that investor looking for is industrial property. However, in fact, from first half of this year, industrial property, the price had already increased like 30%. So in this topic, we are looking at an alternative opportunity, which is residential property that easy to access to industrial zone and also near to the CBD of the big city. So let's take a quick look at the Vietnam map. As you can see that Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City is the biggest two cities in Vietnam. And the key point that I want to point out here is the FDI in these two cities. In Ho Chi Minh City is like 7,200 projects FDI, and in Hanoi only 4,500 of the projects. So you can see that there are big competition in Ho Chi Minh City. This leading to a high price, which is Giang Nguyen also said earlier in her slide that Ho Chi Minh City have higher pricing. So that is, we have a more room for capital gain in Hanoi market. So let's take a look in Hanoi market. This is the map of Hanoi. In the center is the CBD, and we can see that in the square where they said Cang Nam Landmark Tower. I think you can see my mouse. So a lot of foreigners have bought apartments in this area, and even like the majority of the customers come from Korea. Now we see that Taiwan Hong Kong also started to invest in this area. However, in this red line, there is a big land that untouched. And if you see, the industrial zone is in the north. So from this area, we call it Dong Anh, and it's easier to access to this industrial zone. And actually, you just need to cross the river to the CBD. So besides looking at the geography, the possibles to expand the city to the north, we also have to looking at the development, the big development in this area. So the first development I'm going to look at is this BRG Group joined with Sumitomo's Japan company in 4.2 billion USD for smart city project. This is 272 hectares. The next big development in this area is a Cen Group project just next to this smart city. This is a 136 hectare Kim Quy amusement park. And the biggest of all is this, from the map you can see the star here. Actually just across the river is the CBD. This is from Vinhomes, our biggest developer in Vietnam. This almost 300 hectare project, a mix of residential projects and a national exhibition center in this area. And Vinhomes is famous for choosing good location for development. And from the map, there is a yellow light. This is a new Tư Liên Bridge expected to complete in 2024, which is 4 years from now. So looking back, that you can see that Vinhomes is right under the bridge, very good strategic location. So besides looking at the big development in this area, one key factor is that the infrastructure for metro line. This is the planning for 2030 to 2050 of the metro line of Hanoi. And zoom into this area that we have the 3 project development just now. You can see that line number 4 crossing this project. And right now in this area, we only have 2 projects are available for selling, Euro Window and Bình Minh Garden, as you can see from the screen. So looking back at the map, this reminds me of Shanghai like 20 or 25 years ago. We have east and west of the river, I think similar to Shanghai, if you know what I mean. So one side is for farming zone and one side is a city. And now that farming zone becomes a new financial district. So this is a story from our agency in Hong Kong, that they said that like 20 years ago, when the first project building in this farming zone in Shanghai, they start at selling only at 1,600 USD per meter square. And right now they are selling to the market at 16,000 USD per meter square, which is 10 times increase. But what so fantastic about this is not only the capital gain, this is also the for rental yield as well. So right now, for 3 bedrooms in this Shanghai financial district, they are renting out at 3,000 USD per month. And I did a calculation that it equivalent to 21% of return per year. So this is so fantastic. It's like you invest in a Apple company. They also only make 20% per year only. So we have these 2 beautiful projects that in a strategic location for capital and for rental yield that you might expect similar to Shanghai 20 years ago. So besides this apartment, actually I also bought up one of the landed project for your consideration. As you can see from the map of Hanoi, there is no more land to build landed properties. So this is the only project that big enough to build the landed property. And this developer alone is famous for making landmark property. From the middle, you can see that JW Marriott is also one of the top 10 hotel architects in Asia. This hotel is in Hanoi, and Donald Trump has stayed here during his visit. In Ho Chi Minh City, you can see this Bitexco Tower, which now become the landmark of Ho Chi Minh City. So a quick look at the other window that I just mentioned earlier. Just a quick add in the key point here that we recently have signed an MOU with Best Western to be the management of the 31st to 39th floors of River Park Tower. And a quick look at our mixed complex, Bình Minh Garden. We have shop house and apartment in this area too. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you. Pass the mic to Winnie.
Thank you, Alan. It's very comprehensive. Even though I know that we are overrunning, again, I just don't dare cutting you off because it's just so much information. Jidao has been very, very busy with the Q&A panel. During your presentation, I think she already answered more than 10 questions. But now that we know where we can invest on how to do it, let's see what the bank is doing to give us some help. Bring us to Mr. Harminder Mahal, Country Head of Retail Banking. Standard Chartered Bank's presentation is on opportunities and risks for foreign investors. Harminder is a business leader with over 20 years of diverse experience in consumer banking, managing multiple functions from sales to product management. And Harminder is currently the Deputy General Manager at Standard Chartered Bank since 2017. Let's see if we can get the control of the presentation back. Yes, that is Harminder. Harminder, are you ready? Harminder, are you there?
Okay, hello, I was on mute.
Okay, if you can turn on your video also so we can see you, that'll be great.
There we go. Can you see me now?
Not yet, but I think you're coming up. I think we can start while we try to find you. As long as your video is on, we will see you.
Okay. So first of all, thank you, Winnie and Hong Kong Business Association for inviting us here today. Also, thank you to my video seems to be blocked by yourself. Could somebody centrally unblock me from the video? Okay, nevertheless. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to Ms. Dow and lucky Ms. Dow in Las Vegas. I think a lot of the stuff that my presentation is going to cover has already been spoken about either by Dow or by Alan. So I will just save some time in the interest of the panel that we are planning to have a little later. So the first part, I just want to endorse Alan's view. Yeah, okay. On the macroeconomics of Vietnam. As bankers look at the stock market is doing well, we see that companies in Vietnam are relatively lower valued. Their stock is lower valued than other in the region. We also feel that the economy has done very well during the COVID situation and has shown a remarkable recovery, growing a little bit marginally by 0.36% in the second quarter, but still growing, surprisingly growing. As you probably saw this morning, news on Singapore having de-grown by 41%. And therefore, in that context, it seems like really a very good story. Apart from that, we believe that Vietnam is politically and socially very stable. It has a strong population of socially upwardly mobile individuals, and therefore the demand for property within the urban sectors is going to continue for some time to come. Fourth, Alan spoke about relocation of industry from China to Vietnam. Certainly, Vietnam is the key beneficiary of this relocation amongst other countries like Indonesia, etc. But Vietnam is number one on that scale. And therefore, that movement of the industrial investment as well as the people who come to run it, and he spoke about Hanoi, residential property being developed near an industrial zone, is the fallout that Vietnam will benefit from. Lastly, we have seen that over the last few years, and we expect that continuing into the next few, the Vietnamese currency has been quite stable and is likely to be stable given the strong economic performance of Vietnam. However, since we are bankers, we do look at the risk all the time. And therefore, just very quickly, we need to keep in mind the second wave of COVID-19, the possibility of that. Even though the government is doing a fantastic job of containing the pandemic and has been very successful, there is always that lingering thought in the mind. There are some sectors in the economy which are still lagging, such as garment manufacturing, tourism, international tourism, which supports a large amount of tourism in the coastal regions, is yet to take off naturally because there are no international flights allowed at the moment. And we expect that that will impact the economy in those areas to some extent. The third one, Alan brought it up and I will repeat it again, is the US-China trade war, and we don't know how that will go. That's a mix of trade and politics. So, we keep our eyes open whether that will destabilize, the political environment in the South China Sea, or will it continue as it is? Could we go to the next slide, please? Just to repeat some of what Alan has said, high growth in the residential property, especially in the luxury and prime real estate all around Vietnam over the last 3 years, going up quite significantly. He spoke up a very aggressive number of 16,000 per square foot. Ours is a more modest number, which is largely an average of properties, which is slightly over $6,000 per square meter. However, to highlight to you, this still continues to be priced lower than some of the countries around the region. So there is still upside. There is still upside both from a pricing perspective, also driven by the demand being driven by a strong upwardly mobile middle class. Also, the rental returns, we see 5 to 8%. Alan spoke about a 4 to 6%. I guess, after taxes, that's what we'll come to. And the third thing is the major drive by the government into infrastructure, and some of these being metros in both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. And we know when a metro comes in, it expands the city because traveling becomes more meaningful. You can still do some work rather than having to go on a two-wheeler on a long distance in the rain. There are also multiple projects on highways which connect the various cities in Vietnam. And there is a second airport that is coming up in Ho Chi Minh. All this we expect will obviously have an impact on the overall economic growth, therefore benefiting real estate and people in Vietnam. Can we move to the next slide, please? This is just to show you the resilience of the market. We saw, the impact from COVID-19 during April. Largely due to a reduction in activity, both sales activity, and there was social distancing, so people were not allowed to meet each other. If you recall, the Vietnam restrictions were only just there for the large part of April, and 23rd of April, the government started to relax this, having established quite complete control over the pandemic. Tet is a period which is in February. This was in the end of January this year. We usually see a reduction in activity, and that valley or that drop in FX is largely due to that. We have now seen strong recovery coming into May, June of FX flows. into property, and we are a large participant in this. We aid a lot of clients, and I can assure you the number of 800 that Dow put up of the government's view on how many investments there have been from international investors is much too low. You could easily add another 0 there. So there is a lot of interest, and we see that the volume has kind of jumped back already to 2018-19 levels on a monthly basis. Can we move to the next slide, please? So I'm almost on my last slide. I just want to quickly highlight to you what would be on the minds of a lot of people who are putting money into Vietnam, you know, for an investment perspective. Dow spoke about the low capital gains tax, while there is VAT, etc., when you're buying the property. But from a forex perspective, you know, before an investor puts in money, you should make yourself aware of the forex controls. Vietnam still has strict capital controls around, you know, currency. So it is not a free movement of currency that is allowed. However, for foreigners investing property, the government allows you to take out your investment gains from the sale of that property, provided you show all the documentation that proves that you have those proceeds from the sale of that particular property. So it is very important to keep those documents properly updated and accurate, so that when you want to remit your proceeds overseas, there isn't any problem. As such, you should engage your banker. You know, they know how these things work quite well, and they will be able to help you in opening the right kind of accounts and ensuring that you have the right amount of documentation available to yourself. On the foreign ownership limitation, on the previous slide, just quickly on the previous slide, we already spoke about a 30% limit for each project. This is a maximum cap. It is not a minimum cap. So even if a foreigner buys a property and later there isn't a demand from foreigners to buy into that property, local Vietnamese can still buy. This is our understanding. As such, the demand for that property, that set of property will continue to be high. Usually we see that the purchase of mid-end mid-end developments are to the local Vietnamese segment, and a larger participation by foreigners in the premium and luxury segment, especially the buildings that are built by developers from overseas. This is naturally to be expected, given the security that it would lend itself to your knowing a name that operates in Hong Kong or Singapore, both from a quality as well as a governance perspective. Further, the government is also proposing to lease increase this limit of 30%, and that's stuff that is in the news, but we'll have to see how that goes. Could we move to the next slide, please? Okay, this is my last slide, and I hope we have some time for the panel discussion. Basically, I just want to highlight to you over here that during the COVID-19 breakout and the stoppage of flights from overseas, opening accounts, which is required because the dong can only be traded in Vietnam. You cannot trade dong in Hong Kong or Singapore. Has to be done in Vietnam. So you need to open the account in Vietnam. And for that, you need to meet your banker face to face. So in the current situation where you cannot travel to Vietnam, this is a highly restrictive activity for making and transferring money to buy property. There are just a few banks that can provide you the ability to open accounts while you're still in Hong Kong, rather than having to travel to Vietnam. We are one such bank with specific approval from the state bank, to do this. So we have a detailed process which allows you to execute a bank account opening, documentation, KYC, and the related documentation. Lastly, you must assure yourself that the bank that you're going through has good online banking and digital banking facilities which you can operate from a remote overseas location. the third thing is that banks who are operating already in your geography would find it easier, and advantageous to move money between countries. But the online operations and facilities provided by a bank are really important because you can transfer money, you can buy FX online. You don't have to, send any documentations, or you don't have to, go through a manual channel. You can watch your accounts online. With that, I will come to the last and most important slide of my presentation, which is to thank you for listening to me. And I hope I've had some value in your future endeavors to invest into Vietnam. And I again thank Winnie for having us here so that we could participate in this really important and topical discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmander. Definitely, we need to know that there are mechanisms to do what it is. We are very overrun today, but I think we can tell by the questions that we are getting that people are very interested in the topic. Jidao has been very busy. She has answered close to 30 questions during the presentations, and now I think it's time for Caleb to wrap it up with us. Mr. Caleb Lau, General Manager, Hong Kong Land, he will moderate the follow-up discussion. He has been working in Vietnam since year 2007. Concurrently, he's also the Executive Committee member in Hong Kong Land's Vietnam Residential Joint Venture Companies. Prior to that, he was the Head Investment and Asset Management in a Singapore-listed company and worked as a civil engineer consultant. He has master's degrees in Business Administration and Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering. Joining our speakers today, Ms. Dao, Mr. Allen, Mr. Harmander, is Mr. Phạm Thanh Hưng, Vice Chairman of Cen Group. Hồng is the shark on the judge of TV show Shark Tank Vietnam, in which he has invested in many startups. He has strong experience in real estate and is successful in the development of both corporate and government entities. Now, Caleb, I think that your eyes are going crazy with all the questions flying in, but I'm going to hand the control over to you so that you can make our speakers a little bit uncomfortable by asking some sharp questions. So, Caleb, I think we'll stick with the original timeline. And my apology to the participants, if you cannot stay for the rest of the session, there will be a recording available for all of you to access later. So Caleb, it is for you to take this forward.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Well, a big thank you to Ms. Dao. I mean, she has made my job much easier by answering all 29 questions already left. Well, I'll start off with Hong. Just now, Alan did share with us that the yield expectation for investment in properties. Can you share with us what are the expectations for the capital appreciation for the resident properties? Is there any particular place that you would recommend that foreign investors would be keen to invest?
Okay, thank you, and hello everybody. Very nice to see you and share with you some information about the investment of properties in Vietnam. At first, I want to tell you that for the year of the residential property for rent in Vietnam, depends on the location, but you can enjoy roughly about 7 to 8% in a city home. And if you are invested in like a condo tower or the apartment, service apartment in tourism areas like Hạ Long or Da Nang or some other areas, you can enjoy higher, maybe 10 to 12% per year. That is very high year in compared to the other countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, or Australia. And but the most important, you're looking for the price of the investment in residential properties in Vietnam now. You can compare to in the mainland China 20 years ago, because this is very important for Vietnam, because since Vietnam joining WTO since 2006 up to 2018, Vietnam GDP per capita reached 3,000 per capita already. And this is very important that it's the same, exactly the same as in mainland China 20 years ago. And in compared to the Singapore and Hong Kong 40 or 50 years ago, the price of the investment in residential properties in Vietnam. Now it's a very potential and very cheap price. So that is can answer you the question, because in Vietnam you can look at both for the operation yield and looking for the capital gain in the coming time. I expect that in the next 10 years, the properties in Vietnam at least can become triple or 5 times higher than now. If we look back at the last 10 years, in some certain areas like in Da Nang or Nha Trang or Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, it's 10 times higher multiple in capital gain. So in Vietnam, you can both enjoy the yield at least from 7 to 8 to up to 10 and 12% per year for the yield, and at least 5 to 10 times higher after 5 years or 10 years later.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Hong. And a follow-up question for you. Of course, the property prices have risen over the number of years, the pre-COVID-19. Now that we are in a post-COVID, do you expect the prices continue to go up, or there's any going to be adjustments to the prices? That this is something that for our viewers here who are planning to invest, is it the best time to come in?
Sure. Actually, you are very difficult to find out any project that they are like directly discounted in terms of the price, but they give you a lot of promotion, like give you free interest for next 5 years, 10 years, 3 or 5 years, or give you free on the interior finishing or renovation, or give you some interior or home house kitchens or other things that you can enjoy. And I think that a very good time to come to Vietnam right now, because actually in Vietnam, the price now is a very good moment to invest in, because now it start a new cycle, because Vietnam, the cycle, the property price in Vietnam is very short, normally about only 5 to 8 or 10 years only, compared to the 15 or 18 years in other countries like in Hong Kong or Singapore. Vietnam, one cycle only less than 5 to 10 years only. So now is seem to be that end of the last cycle and going to be in a new cycle in next year, 2021 or 2022. It will be, we can enjoy the benefit already.
Thank you, Hung. Well, we get everybody excited to invest. Now, why don't I switch to Ms. Dao? Well, you heard all the excitements we should be investing in Vietnam. I know some of the viewers are wondering, what are the pitfalls, we should be watching during the process of buying and as well as reselling the properties. Is it difficult or is it cumbersome? What do you think on that?
I actually don't think that it's that difficult. The issue is you have to make sure as a foreigner that you're within the quota, and some developers, like my understanding is like the quotas get exceeded very quickly on the first sale. So I think the challenge for a foreigner is to determine, like, am I buying the property from the right person? Because sometimes the Vietnamese can also have the property that is within the quota. So I think that it's more kind of like the practical issues. The legal side, it's really quite simple, very, very easy. And, I don't think even foreign exchange is an issue. If you open an account and you have clear evidence from the bank, that you remitted the money into Vietnam, and certainly that if you open a bank account at like Standard Chartered, any of the big branches of the banks that have licenses in Vietnam, it's not really a concern. It's pretty easy in my view. Great
to hear that. My recommendation, please reach out to Ms. Dao and also your banker. A friendly banker will be Harminder. Well, I'm glad to hear that Standard Chartered is really supporting our foreign buyers by opening accounts in their home country. That's great to hear. A lot of my buyers are asking me that, whether they can do so. Glad to hearing from you. So is it very cumbersome to open a Vietnam bank account overseas?
Yeah. Hi, Caleb. No. See, there is a couple of elements in opening a bank account that a banker needs to get assurance on. This is required from a regulatory perspective. Number one is the KYC, which is we need to know our client. And therefore, we need to see government-issued documentation which compares with the identity of the client. We need to establish that. Then there is the signature that needs to be captured on the application form, the account opening application form. And we need to witness that. We need to know that it's the same person who is signing as is the person who has been identified. And then third is the source of funds. So the process that we have got approval from, while we can check out the source of funds through documentation that the client is required to send, we can do the KYC through a video call, but we need somebody to witness the signature. And we have put in place a process of doing that through a notary or a lawyer who has notary credentials. So in that case, the client needs to go to a notary and have the notary submit those documents directly to Standard Chartered, and we will be able to open the account. Once the account is open, the client can remit money into that account, trade by the, convert into dong and submit to the builder as per the schedule required. So it's actually a great piece of work that some of my colleagues have done in a very short period of time in reaction to the COVID-19 restrictions on international travel.
All right, great. Now I just want to touch on financing. I mean, of course, we all know, you have shared that the financing is being offered by Standard Chartered to foreigners tied to the residence or visa that is given to the foreign buyers. Is Standard Chartered considering any foreign collaterals? I mean, if Standard Chartered bank is their bankers as well, let's say in Hong Kong or in Singapore or various other places?
No, I don't see a big demand from people from overseas for foreign collateral. I think if there was allowance for people to fund their mortgage within Vietnam, that would be more in demand for people who are putting money here. But at the moment, it's largely wealthy people who are putting in money into Vietnam. We see people buying 6 penthouses at one go and stuff. So it's not the guy who needs financing that's putting in money here. It's more an investment view. So we are not looking at collateral overseas to help fund this. And if you're an overseas resident foreigner, as Ms. Dao put it, you cannot avail of funding within Vietnam.
All right. Coming back to Alan, I know that Cen Group has overseas office that reach out to foreign buyers, and currently you guys are, I believe, in Korea and also in Australia. Am I right? And can you share a little bit, about your experience or what are buyers' expectations from the foreign buyers in overseas?
Okay, so actually we have office in this country, but we mainly focus on finding agency partner to working with us. So this is we not dealing direct with the clients, but from our experience when dealing with these agencies companies, we see that many of the Hong Kong or China customer, they focus on apartment projects, especially in big city like Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. And the thing that they focus on is on the potential for rental yield and capital gain. So the minimum expectation for these clients is around 5% per year for rental yield. And for capital gain, I think this is the story that I shared earlier, that they see the history coming back, like Shanghai 20 years ago. So that's why many of the Chinese, Hong Kong investors, they buy very fast in some of the projects in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City.
Okay, we're running a little bit out of time already, so I will just have a question that's posted by Mr. Luke to Harminder. What is the percentage of local paying cash, and what is the percentage of borrowers borrowing money from a bank for mortgages? Because just now you said that very few people borrow. So in case they were to borrow, how much would they be borrowing, and is there a limit of borrowing?
For the local buyer, Vietnamese resident in Vietnam, there is no problem. There is a slew of banks who will provide you mortgage. The loan to value is in the region of 80%, and it's a pretty straightforward mortgage that probably exists in every country where a new home is launched, and the developer themselves will have tie-ups with the banks.
Right, thank you, Caleb. My apology to everyone that we are overrunning. Disregarding Ji Dao was answering over 40 questions on the Q&A panel. We still have some left over, in which we will get back to you privately. A video of this webinar, as well as the presentation slides, will be available in about 48 hours. And if you're a participant, you will receive it from us. Otherwise, it is accessible on our website. Unfortunately, Mr. Hong of Cen Group has an urgent meeting he has to run to, and Alan was still there. So thank you, Alan, and please send our regards to Mr. Hong for sponsoring and speaking on this webinar. Thank you, Ms. Dao. Thank you, Harminder, for sharing your thoughts with us. And thank you, Caleb, for having control of the interesting conversation. And to the participants, on behalf of HKBAV and Cen Group, thank you for spending time with us today, and hope that you have found the information that you need to make the next big step in being an investor in Vietnam. Now, if there is a topic that you want to hear from HKBAV or any of our expert speakers today, or if you're interested in being featured in one of the future webinars, do reach out to us. Until then, we'll see you again, and have a very good day, and Ji Dao, have a very good evening. Thời lượng 60 phút của chương trình tọa đàm trực tuyến chia sẻ của chuyên gia về việc mua nhà tại Việt Nam cho người nước ngoài cũng đã khép lại. Cảm ơn sự quan tâm theo dõi của quý vị và các bạn.